There's a way to seize the day. There's a place for the precious people.
Hi guys, Tania Rose here, and today we're talking about change. Can we change? Is it possible to change? Well, we know that brain plasticity, the ability for the brain to make changes within itself, means that technically we should all be able to change behaviors, learn new skills. In fact, adaptation is one of the greatest skills that humans have. You know, we don't have claws and we don't have fur protecting ourselves and things like that, but we can adapt. So change is part of our makeup. Change is important. Change is how we've evolved as humans, and change is how we can evolve as people as well. So can we change? Yes, we can. And the changes can be small or large, but we can make change. Did you know that a lot of people aren't aware that they actually have the power to change? It's kind of one of those things that unless you're around other people, perhaps mentors or family who talk about this kind of thing, it's just a subject that doesn't come up. Can we change? You know, do we have the power to change? Sometimes we are guided by professionals who may say you can change, but only under these circumstances, only with these kind of tools or with this kind of help. But the truth is, if you have a desire to change, you can change. The first thing is having the desire to change, making a decision. I choose to change. And change is challenging. There's no question about that. Change can be really difficult. And it's not just the big changes that can be difficult. The small changes can be too. So let's say you decided that you're going to just do some sit-ups. You want to get, some core strength going on, and you're going to, right, every day I'm going to go and do, 20 sit-ups to start off with, and increase until I can do 100 sit-ups every night. And whilst it's one tiny thing that initially will only take a little tiny bit of time, it's not always easy. It can be a challenge. It can be a challenge because we forget. We're unmotivated. We kind of have this idea, and then when it comes down to it, it feels too hard. It feels too difficult. So how long does it take to be able to change? And how do we face those challenges? I think one thing to keep in mind is that everybody's different. We're all different. We all have different things that motivate us. We are all wired differently to learn, for example. Some people learn from having some kind of scheduling system. Some people need more that sort of gentle push and inspiration. Some people find that, their inspiration comes from other ways. Their motivation comes from other areas of life. Some people find that if they have somebody they're doing it with, it's much easier. The way we learn and the way we put our changes in place, it can be instrumental in having success with change. But I have to say, is there such thing as failure to change? I think not. I think sometimes, for example, let's say you want to give up smoking. It may not happen the first time you decide to do that, or the second time, or the third time, but you still have the ability to change. Just because it hasn't worked out that first time doesn't mean it's never going to happen for you. And I think that's really important to bear that in mind when you're trying to look at different changes that you want to make in your life, whether it's a small thing or a big thing or a whole lot of things or just one thing in particular, that change is always possible. Every moment of every day is a possibility to make a change. And the small changes are just as important as the big changes. It doesn't matter what your change is, what you're striving for. Everything is possible. So how long does it take to change? Well, it's very different for different people. It's very different depending on your circumstances. So there's no way you can schedule change. Sometimes it's helpful if we go, all right, by this particular day or date, I hope to blah. I hope to, let's say, put on 5 more kilos of muscle mass, or change the way I'm doing things. I want to be able to ride my bike 3 times a week, but I need to work up to that. You may have a time that you're kind of looking at, a timeline, and that's really good. But there's no set time that you can expect things to change. And a great example of that is grief. Now, I'm not talking necessarily about grieving the loss of a loved one. Grief can be very complex. We can grieve parts of ourselves when we go through perhaps changes that we weren't expecting, suddenly having to move house, suddenly losing our job, suddenly finding ourselves a parent when our child has moved out of home and no longer you have no longer children at home. And so you're a parent that feels like a parent who can't parent. There's kind of those griefs. And when it comes to how long does it take to change so it doesn't feel so heart-wrenching or challenging, there is no such thing as how long it takes. It's different. Every situation is going to be different. And if you take away the expectation for yourself, you may find that just relieving that pressure changes your ability to change. For a lot of people, taking the pressure off can actually allow them to focus on their change instead of focusing on the outcome. And by focusing on that change, I mean the journey of changing. Because like everything, the journey is really important. It's not just the result. If we were just result driven, and some people do find themselves in that situation, it's very stressful. It can be very, very difficult. We live in a world at the moment in Western society where we are results driven. Everything is about what the end result is. And if you look at social media, you see it littered with people striving to get the ultimate family photo, the ultimate, this is the dinner I cooked photo shot. There's so much pressure to get results that sometimes it's difficult to realize the journey is where the success comes from. So I've got a few tips that may help you in your own journey for change. One tip that I find really helpful is if you can add something to do with your change to something you already do. So let's look at that sit-up situation where you might be some kind of exercises, stretching, twisting your back, some kind of thing that maybe your doctor or chiropractor or somebody has said, look, if you do these exercises every day, you will find improvement. How about attaching that to something you maybe already do, like brushing your teeth? So after you've brushed your teeth, you then do those exercises. One of the reasons why it's easier to do something when you attach it to something you already do is we have an association then. We have a relationship with something. We brush our teeth every day, twice a day for a lot of people. Brush our teeth twice a day, exercises when we brush our teeth. It's very easy to slip that in, and then those two become one activity. I do my teeth and exercises. So that's one tip that you can have. Small changes. This is the other tip. Small changes add up. Never underestimate the small changes you make. For example, giving up smoking, perhaps, and it's not necessarily a case of going cold turkey. What about being able to cut down? So every time you feel like you want to have a cigarette, you just put it off for 15 minutes. Or you get up, move around, leave the room, go somewhere, go outside, just have a moment and come back in and see if you can get to the next time you would have a cigarette. Those small changes can add up. If you imagine just doing that once a day, and then the next day being able to do it twice a day, maybe that happens for a week, and then sometime later you're able to do it maybe half the time You've cut down half on your cigarettes. That is amazing. That's a significant change. So small changes are okay. And what's also okay is to try something new, a new strategy. Sometimes we may try and instigate changes where we go, right, okay, all I need to do is this. I just need to follow these steps and it's going to happen. And it doesn't work out. It doesn't mean failure. It doesn't mean you can't try again. It doesn't mean you can't try a new strategy. It doesn't mean that other strategies won't work. Perhaps the way you were doing it before just isn't working for you. Perhaps you've done it before and it was successful, but for some reason this time it's just not working for you. It's okay to try a new strategy. Remember, we are adaptable. Humans are very adaptable. We are made and built for change. That's the simple fact of it. So it's okay to try a new strategy. The other thing to remember is you have the power. Your decision to make change is the most powerful thing that you have. It's the most powerful tool at your disposal. You may have somebody else, maybe a mentor, a doctor, or somebody else who says, all right, you need to make some changes, and this is one of the changes that you need to make. And you might go, oh, wow, okay, yeah, right, I really do need to do that. That's pretty important. But it's you who holds the power. If you make that decision, I choose change. Sometimes we need to say that to each other and ourselves. And by saying it to each other, I mean saying it to a friend. I need change. I choose to change. I am changing. I am in the process of changing. In front of a mirror, telling yourself, maybe writing it in a status on your social media, telling a friend, sharing it with other people, colleagues, workmates. I am changing. Not only does it feel like it empowers you, even if you don't believe it to start off with, especially if you're at the beginning of your change, it can be inspirational to other people. I had a colleague who said, right, this is what I'm doing, and I'm going to get it done, and I know it's better for my health and all the rest of it. And I was so inspired by that. I came away thinking, you know what? He's right. I can make changes too. And even though later on when I sort of caught up with him, he was like, oh no, I've been bad, it's been Christmas, I'm out of routine and all the rest of it. I still felt the initial inspiration when he said, I'm doing this thing and I'm really motivated and exercise and I'm going to change my eating habits and change my lifestyle and things. I still have that inspiration from him, even though he's found a little bit difficult recently. So you have the power. It's within you, and you can share that and pass it on. Another tip is keeping things simple. That's really important. Doesn't have to be complicated. It can be really simple. In fact, some of the most simple things that we say to ourselves and that we communicate are the most powerful. So keep your goals simple. Keep the way you talk to yourself about it really simple, and try and focus on keeping it simple. Here's an example. I'm going to have a healthier lifestyle. Okay, that's a pretty big thing, covers a lot of things. Health, exercise, diet, supplements, all kinds of things, mental health things as well, things that are good for us, going off and spending more time doing things like that. That's a great thing, but sometimes it's hard when we've got a big changing goal like that to really know what kind of changes we need to make. So keep things simple. Focus on one aspect of change. You may focus on different aspects of change across the course of the day, but when you're thinking about change, keep it simple. You may have a global thing, but keep your thoughts simple, particularly when you're finding it difficult. That's really important too. It's a good tip. Okay, seeking out inspiration. as I've just mentioned, sometimes the inspiration can be very close to home, and we may know people who are doing things, or we may see people on social media who are doing things and go, yeah, I can do that. Sometimes it may take a little bit of digging to get inspired, particularly if you're having a rough time. Finding people who've gone through the process can be a really good thing. And, with social media, Instagram and places like that, you can often connect to people and groups who are sharing their own journey. And that can be a really good source of inspiration. So definitely keep in mind that inspiration doesn't necessarily just arrive on your doorstep. Sometimes you've got to get out there. You might decide to read some books. There are some great free resources online. Also, obviously, resources that you can purchase as well. If you're not a big reader, there's heaps of videos, inspirational videos that you can see, like on YouTube, that you can watch for nothing. Documentaries on places like Netflix and other streaming things. There's audiobooks, fantastic audiobooks out there that are really helpful. Now, you may come across stuff that isn't necessarily helpful, or you feel like, no, it's not quite where you're at or what you need, but that's okay as well. Okay, the last thing I want to say in terms of tips is kudos for your effort. It's really important for you to sort of acknowledge that you have made that effort. It's not something that should just be assumed. Effort takes mindfulness, and mindfulness takes a decision. It's important. Kudos for you, for the effort that you take, for every little tiny thing. Remember, small changes are just as important as big ones. So, can we change? Yes. Is change challenging? Of course it is. How long does it take? It takes as long as it takes. Tips for change. Add something you do normally every day. Add it to that. Yeah? Small changes add up. Remember, it's okay to try a new strategy. You have the power. Keep things simple. Seek out inspiration if you need it. And kudos for the effort. Okay. That's all from me. Share this video if you think it might help somebody. Comment below if you'd like to share perhaps some of your own changes and things that you are doing, have done, would like to do in the future. Like and subscribe. There'll be more of these videos coming out soon. And take care, be mindful, and look after yourself. Smiles to you.
There's a way to seize the day. There's a place for the precious people.